Hi guys, welcome back to Java Full Stack Made Easy session 83. In this session, we will talk about the Spring Data JPA derived queries. If you remember, in the previous sessions, we have talked about the Spring Data JPA CRUD. So let us just go back to what we have done till now. So if you remember, what we have done is we have created a Spring application uh, for Spring Data JPA where I had an entity which contains four properties like ID, name, power, and universe. Then we created a DTO for request and response, the data transfer objects. So a superhero request was created without having an ID, so that when we are taking the request from the client, we don't require an ID because we have generated the ID automatically. Then while providing the response to the customer, we have included the ID so that we also give the customer the ID that we have generated. Similarly, after that, we have implemented a Spring Data JPA repository, and with the JPA repository, we have not implemented anything because we know that Spring Data JPA itself handles all our CRUD operations. And then we have implemented a service interface where we are exposing the methods that we will be using at the controller side. So as for now, we have done about the create hero, that means to create a new superhero. Then we have implemented a get all that retrieves all the superheroes. Then we have implemented a get by ID which finds the superhero based on the ID provided, and also we have implemented an update superhero which updates the details of a superhero that we have created. Then next is the implementation part of the service where we have implemented all those four methods that we have created in the service, which is the superheroes. uh, Here you can see the create superhero is implemented, and also one important method, that is to response, that we have created, which actually converts the request object into the response object. So whenever you give a superheroes entity, at that time it is going to take this and convert it into a response entity, that means the DTO. Now, not the response entity, that is the response entity that we want to return to the customer. We don't want to expose the entity directly. Then we created a method, that is implemented a method called as create superhero, that takes the hero request and then converts that into the superhero object, and then we were saving it into the repository. And similarly, we have created implemented the get all, we have implemented the get by ID, delete, and the update. So far we have done this. And also in the controller part, if you look here, we have exposed the we have exposed four endpoints, which is get all for retrieving all the superheroes, then post to add a new superhero, then we have implemented get by ID, we have implemented delete by ID, and we have implemented the update. So in this session, we will mainly talk about the derived queries of Spring Data JPA, what these derived queries are, and we will also see the power of Spring Data JPA by implementing the derived queries. So now, what if I want to implement? So this was a simple CRUD operation where we created, retrieved, update, and deleted the stuff. But what if my requirement is a bit more complicated? That means a bit more complex. Suppose, for example, what I want to do is I don't want to find the superhero just based on the ID of a superhero. What if I want to find a superhero maybe based on a universe, or maybe I want to find out a superhero based on a particular universe and the power, or maybe I want to find out a superhero whose name contains words like keywords like VI, or maybe Virat, or something like that. Or maybe I want to retrieve the superheroes by ignoring the case that we enter. So let us see how are we going to achieve this, and also we will explore the power of Spring Data JPA here uh, to know about the derived queries. So by writing this derived queries, you will know that how Spring Data JPA is intelligent enough to create the queries for us and helps us write uh, efficient queries without even writing a single SQL statement. So let me show you how do we do that. The very first requirement that I'm thinking of here is to find a superhero based on the universe. So if you look at the entity here, I have the properties like name, power, and universe. Now I want to find out a superhero based on the universe. So which is obviously going to return me multiple superheroes. So if I provide a name of a universe, it has to return me all the superheroes belonging to that particular universe, right? So let's see how are we going to achieve that. So let's first call it as find superheroes by universe. So this is what I want to implement, and to implement this it is very easy. So what we have to do is we have to just say use these words like find by universe. So this universe is the property, right? So we want to find it by the universe, and what it takes, obviously it takes an argument which is going to be of type string, and user is going to provide us the universe. So this is the property that will be returned to us. And what is it going to return us? It is going to return us a list of superheroes, right? So we will use a list here. So it is going to return us a list, Java util list of type superheroes. So which is our entity. So find by superhero. If you do this, then you are done with writing a derived query. Nothing extra will be required. Our Spring Data JPA is intelligent enough to write the query for you. You don't need to write select maybe star from superheroes where universe is equal to the provided universe. All that SQL query is not required here. So we don't need to write it. Spring Data JPA is intelligent enough to provide you those queries. Now, similarly, like I have done this, it is very easy to do this. First of all, let us first implement this. After that, we will see how are we going to implement the other details as well. That means we will try and implement more functionalities, more methods into the Spring Data JPA. So since we know that this is the method which has to be again exposed in the service. So I will copy this and I will go to this service layer, and in the service layer once again I'm gonna have a similar method, that is finding a superheroes by an uh, universe. So let's have a list of superhero find by universe. So we will implement the same method in the superheroes service, and the same method I would like to implement in the superheroes IMPL as well. So since the superheroes IMPL is a class, if I just paste this method is not enough. I have to provide the body for this method, plus I should also include a public access specifier here, because it's a class. In a class the default access specifier is default, whereas the default access specifier in an interface is public. So that is why we have to include public here. If we don't write it public there, it is still fine for us, but because by default itself in the interface, repository is an interface, service is also an interface, so that is why I did not write a public there. So let us now implement this get the superheroes by universe. So here what I'm gonna do is I will simply say repository dot. Now in the repository we have what? We have the get by superhero implemented. Just now we have written that is sorry, which is find by universe. So this is the method that we have implemented there. So that's what we are going to write here. Find by universe, and we will get this property universe here, pass that particular thing here. Fine. So that's what we are going to write, find by universe, and then on this itself we can perform a stream, so that we can return a list here. So stream dot. Now we have to convert whenever it is returning us, what it is returning us, it is returning us the superhero. So what we have to implement here is we have implemented something called as the DTO, right? The data transfer objects. So here also, if you remember, for the previous return types I have used a superhero response, right? So similarly, like my methods in all the previous sessions, that is the previous queries that I have implemented, it returns us a superhero response. So similarly here also I want it to return a superhero response, not just the superhero. So that's why what I will do is I will go here, and here find by universe I will return a response rather than just returning a superhero. So it is a superhero response object which I want to return. So let us change that return type here in the implementation as well. so that we don't directly return an entity. This is something which we have already discussed in our previous session, why we should not return an entity directly. So let us map, that means let us transform this particular response object into the superhero. Fine. So what we will do here is, since we have already implemented a to response method, so we will be using that and then we will map that method. So we will say map this particular method using the method reference to response, that will convert the given uh, the returned superhero into superhero response and return it as a list to us. Fine. And this entire thing we are just gonna return it. Fine. So we can store it into a list and return that list, or we can directly simply say that return this particular list there. So by doing this, we will be done with this. Now you can see that the heroes implementation is done. Now I will go to the controller, and in the controller, I will create the endpoint to find the superheroes based on the universe. So here again, we will require a get mapping, right, for finding it by the universe. So I'll simply go ahead, and we had this get by ID. So I'll simply copy this particular method and go down. And for this method, I will just implement a comment. Let's say call it as get by universe. Fine. Get by universe. So it'll have similar implementation. So it'll be a get mapping, and this will work on, let's say, universe slash the universe we will provide. So that means when I'm accessing this particular endpoint, it will be a get, which is http colon slash slash localhost superheroes slash universe slash the universe that I have to provide. Fine. So then uh, so that we don't end up getting a conflict between this get by id and get this universe. That is why I have implemented this universe, so that we know that we are finding it by the universe and we don't end up having a conflict between those two endpoints. Now the next point is about, it is going to obviously return us a response entity of type superheroes response itself, and this is going to find it by get by, let's say, universe. This method name can be anything, but let's give a more meaningful name to it. And obviously the variable, the path variable is of type string here. You can notice that here path variable is of type string and it is universe. So I'm taking a user is going to give me a universe there. That means name of the universe, and based on that I'm going to search and return the response entity. So my response entity again is going to be okay, and this time it is not going to find the service.getById. It is going to perform a get by universe, and also we don't need to do a get here because I did not implement a optional there. So it is not returning us an optional, so we will simply do a service dot get, sorry, which is find by universe, right? So it's not get there, it is find by universe there. So I'll just be saying find by universe. Okay. Now this find by universe, what it returns us, let's say superheroes response is what we are returning. Type mismatch cannot convert from response entity list of superheroes. Yes. So it actually returns us what it is not returning us one single superhero, it is returning us list of superheroes. So we will return that here. Response entity should be of type return list of superheroes. Fine. So get by universe is gonna return us that. Let's save it, and now we will run this application and test whether we will get all the superheroes based on the data provided or not. So this is my main application. I'm just gonna run it as the Java application. So run as Java application, a Spring Boot application should start. And we know that in the previous sessions itself, we have discussed all these stuffs. Fine. So let it get started. So once it gets started, what we are going to do is we will go to Postman. First of all, we will check all the superheroes. So let's retrieve the superheroes, and you notice that there are three superheroes which I have entered here. One is Virat, another one is null, there is no name for it, and the third one is Hitman that I have. So I basically have three superheroes in my database. So what I'm gonna do is, and all of them belong to Marvel itself. So what we can also do is we can post the superhero, and we will test like by adding the superheroes. So let us first post another superhero where the superhero will not have these properties. So that means let's have another superhero. What all we have Virat, Null and Hitman. So let's enter a superhero. Let's call it as Rahul, and let Rahul belong to some other universe. Let's say DC or something. Fine. So let us enter this superhero as well, which is gonna be a post mapping for us. So a new superhero has to be entered. So let us enter that. So I entered a new superhero. Let us retrieve the superheroes and see whether we get all the superheroes or not. So we get all these superheroes now. You can see that one is from DC, other three are from Marvel. So now I'm gonna do what? I'm gonna check my endpoint, which is find the superhero based on the universe. So for that, if you remember in the get mapping here, I have implemented universe slash. So if you look at the controller, in the controller, I have just now implemented a universe slash universe. So that is what has to be provided. So you can see that it is universe slash the universe that we want. So let's go here and provide that endpoint universe slash. Now I want the universe DC, which I have just now implemented uh, for Rahul. So I will send this. I have to find the superhero based on the universe. So you can notice that Rahul is retrieved to me. Similarly, if I provide Marvel here, I will get all the superheroes belonging to this particular universe. So you can see that this is how we have implemented. So this is how simple it is in Spring Data JPA to implement the derived queries. So what we have done here, we have implemented very simple stuff. So let's go to the repository first. In the repository, what have we done? In the repository, we have simply implemented a find by. So this is again a standard which we have to follow. A find by has to be followed by the property name. The property that we have in the entity is universe. So find by any property name. You can find it by universe, you can find it by power, you can find it by name. ID by default it is there, which is find by ID, so we don't need to implement that. We are now implementing it based on the universe. So you can try it with power, name, or even any property that you have. Spring Data JPA would be intelligent enough to understand that property and find you the detail. So what I have done is find by universe obviously returns me multiple superheroes. That is why the return type of this is return as list of superheroes. Fine. So here superheroes is my entity that has to be provided, but I don't want to return this entity. I want to return a response entity, that is my data transfer object, the DTO. That is why in the service you can notice that find by universe is written but with the response object here, superhero response, which is the DTO for us. And the same method is implemented in the superheroes IMPL. And in the IMPL, once again, I have not done any rocket science here. So what I'm doing is I'm implementing that method here, and I'm saying repository.findByUniverse, which is the method that is created in the repository that takes the universe as the argument. And once it takes that as an argument, because our return type is superheroes response, which is not actually just the superheroes. If it was just the superheroes, we would have just put a semicolon here and we would have done with this particular example. Because we want to return a DTO, what we are doing here in the stream.map is we are converting this particular object, which is going to be the superhero, to a response object. So a superhero entity will be converted into a superhero response, and we are doing it for all the superheroes that we get, and at the end we are returning it as a list. So converting it to a list, and we are returning the same thing. And lastly, we have implemented the same thing inside the controller. So in the controller, we have created an endpoint with the universe as its path, and there is a path variable that is implemented, which is universe again. So response entity returns a list of superheroes of type superhero response, and then a path variable universe, and this is the path variable that will be provided by the user during the runtime, and that is something which I'm passing in here, and I'm just finding that superhero which we have written in the service find by universe and provide the universe. So that's the result of that find by superheroes. So I think we are done with a very simple derived query here. In my next session, I will be talking about more complicated derived queries. That means we will implement more enhanced derived queries in our next session. Thank you. It's been a long time since I have posted this video, so I hope you are enjoying in the series. If you are enjoying the series, please subscribe to my channel, like and share for a better reach. Thank you. See you in the next session.